In the bustling city of Lagos, strides through the streets a man powerful, with his two well-dressed children, heirs to his thriving empire. Their family seems secure, their family name untarnished, but fate intervenes on a street corner. There, crouched with a tin cup, is a woman they once knew only in faded photographs, their mother. Once full of grace, now reduced to begging. The children stopped, confused and shaking. Dad, is that not Mom? The father freezes. He has lived his life dreading this exact moment. The story he told about her disappearance was neat, convenient, but the truth is dark. Shame, betrayal, abandonment. Now, in his children's questioning eyes, he must decide. Will he reveal the painful truth or protect them with another lie? Why did their mother really leave? Is she a victim of her choices or his? Will the children see their father as a hero or a villain? And when the truth finally comes out, whose side will they stand on? This is the story of secrets, family wounds, and the moments when the past can no longer stay buried. The late afternoon sun bathed the city streets in a golden glow as Chief Frederick Benson walked briskly along the sidewalk. On either side of him were his children, Michael and Sophia, now grown, dressed in tailored suits that spoke of power and legacy. People glanced at them as they passed, not just because of their elegance, but because the Coles were a name everyone knew. Adrian's empire, built over decades, stretched across industries, real estate, oil, and finance. To the world, they were the perfect family, untouchable. Chief Benson adjusted his cufflinks, stealing a glance at his children. Michael carried himself with quiet strength, while Sophia radiated confidence. They were his pride, his heirs, the living proof of his sacrifices. He smiled faintly, though his chest carried a weight he never shared. Every step with them reminded him of the secret he had carefully buried. Dad, Sophia said with a playful tone, I think that man we just passed almost bowed at you. Michael chuckled. You are becoming a walking legend. Chief Benson smirked, though his eyes betrayed a shadow. Respect is earned, children. It's easily lost if you are careless. They walked past another block, laughter between them. When Michael suddenly slowed, his gaze had fallen on something across the street. A frail woman sat on the corner, a torn scarf covering her head, her hands trembling as she extended a tin cup towards passerbys. Her face was withered, but her eyes were unforgettable. Sophia gasped, clutching Michael's arm. Wait, Dad! Chief Benson froze. Heartbeat thundered. Dad! Michael's voice trembled. Is that Mom? Chief Benson's mouth opened, but no words came out. Michael's chest rose and fell sharply as he stared across the street, his eyes wide with disbelief. Looked onto the frail woman with a tin cup. She shifted slightly, and the scarf on her head slipped just enough to reveal a streak of silver hair and a scar above her left eyebrow, the same scar he remembered from childhood. Sophia's lips trembled. It's her! Michael, is really her, that's Mom! Passerbys moved around the woman without a glance, some tossing coins half-heartedly into her cup, others ignoring her completely. But for Michael and Sophia, the world had frozen. The woman who had disappeared from their lives when they were children, the woman their father told them had abandoned them, sat broken before their eyes. Michael turned sharply to his father. Dad, why is she there? Why is she on the streets? His voice cracked between anger and desperation. Chief Benson's jaws tightened and his hands curled into a fist at his side. Not here, he said, his voice low but controlled. This isn't a place for. Not the place? Sophia snapped, her voice rising raw with emotions. Our mother is sitting on a dirty corner begging strangers for coins, and you said this isn't the place? Are you serious, Dad? Chief Benson looked away, his eyes hard, but his silence was louder than words. Across Across the street, the woman finally looked up. Her gaze, weary and searching, landed directly on them. For a split second, recognition flickered in her eyes. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Tears shimmered as she raised a trembling hand towards them, almost in disbelief. Michael's feet moved before his mind caught up. He stepped off the curb. "Mom!" he called, his voice breaking. "Michael, wait!" Chief Benson backed, grabbing his son's hands with surprising force. But Michael wrenched himself free, his eyes blazing. "You can't stop me, not this time." Sophia clutched Chief Benson's sleeve, her own tears falling. "Dad, we need answers. You told us she left. You told us she didn't want us, so why is she here?" Chief Benson's face hardened, but his voice wavered. "Because the truth is complicated." The mother's trembling voice carried across the street, hoarse but unmistaken. "Michael! Sophia! My babies!" The children froze, the sound of her voice ripping open wounds long buried. Michael's pulse raised as he stood in the middle of the sidewalk, still staring at the woman across the street. His mother, their mother, was no longer just a story, no longer a faded photograph. She was flesh and blood, broken and begging. "Dad," he said through clenched teeth, turning sharply towards Chief Benson, "you are going to explain this right here, right now." Chief Benson's voice cut like steel. "Lower your voice, Michael." His eyes darted around passerbys who had slowed their steps, curiosity piqued by the raised voices. "We are not having this conversation in public." Sophia's cheeks were streaked with tears. "You lied to us," she whispered, trembling. "All those years. You told us she abandoned us, that she didn't love us enough to stay. But she looked at me, Dad, and I saw it. That's in mother's eyes. She recognized me." Chief Benson reached for Sophia's arm gently. "Sophia, please, you don't understand." "No, you don't understand," she snapped, pulling away. "You can't erase what we just saw. You can't cover it with some neat explanation later." Michael stepped closer to his father, his voice low but sharp. "Did you put her there? Did you ring her? Because she doesn't look like someone who chose to leave her children." Chief Benson's composure faltered for a moment, his throat working as though the words he wanted to speak refused to come. He straightened his back, forcing control into his tone. "I promise you both I will explain everything. Not here, not like this." "When then?" Michael pressed, his eyes burning. "Tonight," Chief Benson said firmly. "Come home with me. We will sit down and I will tell you the truth, all of it." Sophia shook her head, her face clenched. "And if we don't believe you?" Chief Benson's lips tightened. He looked between his children, then across the street at the woman who still watched them with desperate, pleading eyes. He exhaled deeply. "Then, you will have to decide whose version of truth you are willing to live with." Long before the empires, before the suits and polished glass towers, there had only been two dreamers, Frederick Benson and Helen Charles. They met in a crowded university library. Benson, ambitious even then, had been buried in economics textbooks. Helen, with ink smudges on her fingertips, had leaned over his shoulders to whisper, "You are highlighting the wrong section." He looked up, annoyed at first, then caught off guard by her eyes, soft brown, full of mischief and uncertainty. "Excuse me," Benson said defensively. "You are studying business law, right?" she teased, tapping the page. "That case was overturned. You will look like an idiot if you quote it." For a moment, Benson felt small under her confidence. Then slowly, he smiled. "Then maybe you should sit down and teach me." She laughed, bright and unrestrained, and slid into the seat across from him. That was the first spark. Their courtship had been fiery. Benson was disciplined, always planning 5 years ahead. Helen was spontaneous, sketching dresses on napkins, singing off-key in the rain. Somehow, their opposites made sense. He grounded her dreams. She softened his edges. They married in a modest church, with only a handful of friends and no fortune to boast of. Benson worked 3 jobs, balancing ledgers by night, selling cars by day. Helen Helen designed clothes for local boutiques, each stitch sewn with hope. They lived in a cramped one-bedroom apartment where leaky pipes dripped into pots, but laughter filled every corner. When Michael was born, Benson held him up like a promise. One day, son, you will inherit more than my name. You will inherit a world I will build with these hands. Helen touched his cheek then, her voice gentle. Don't forget, Benson, empires are built not only with hands, but with hearts. At first, he believed her. Together they dreamed big. Together they climbed step by step until Benson's business ventures began to pay off. But beneath the laughter, cracks had already begun to form. Benson's hunger for power grew faster than Helen's love for simplicity. Where she wanted family dinners, he wanted late night meetings. Where she sought closeness, he saw distraction. The empire had not just taken shape, but the first sign of strain already did. Benson's small ventures were beginning to succeed, bringing in more money than ever before. Yet, with each step toward business, he seemed to take a step back at home. Helen sat at the kitchen table one evening, her sewing machine silent, her sketchbook unopened. A pot of stew simmered untouched on the stove. Michael, still a toddler, clutched at her dress, tugging for attention, but Helen's eyes were distant and heavy with shadows. When Benson walked in, loosening his tie, his face was flushed with excitement. I closed the deal today, he announced proudly. Do you know what this means? We are moving up, Helen. Investors are finally noticing me. She forced a smile, but her voice cracked. That's wonderful, Benson, but you wearing here for dinner again? Michael asked for you. He's starting to think you live in your office. Benson sighed, setting his briefcase down with a thud. Helen, I'm doing this for him, for us. Do you think I enjoy 12 hours a day? Do you think I like groveling at men who look down on me? This is the price we pay for building something lasting. Her eyes glistened as she shook her head. I don't care about lasting empires. I care about the little boy tugging at my dress. I care about the night I sit here alone, wondering if my husband remembers he has a wife. Michael whimpered, and Helen scooped him up, pressing her cheeks against his. Her voice softened, almost a whisper. Sometimes I wonder if you already left us in spirit. Benson stiffened. Don't say that. You know I love you both. But love alone won't feed this family. Ambition is what puts food on the table. Helen looked at him long and hard. Ambition is feeding you, Benson, but it's starving me. Her words cut deep, though Benson refused to show it. He turned away, loosening his collar. One day, Helen, you will thank me for this. One day, when Michael is grown, he will walk tall because his father built him a name worth carrying. Having now moved and started living in a bigger space, one evening, she sat in the living room, a glass of wine and a bottle by the side. It wasn't her first. A neighbor had introduced her to eat at a dinner party, saying it helped take the edge off. At first, she had sipped occasionally. Now, the bottle emptied faster. When Benson came home and saw her, his face darkened. Again, he muttered, tossing his jacket onto the chair. Helen's eyes flashed. Again what, Benson? Again me sitting here waiting for you? Again me trying to fill the silence you leave behind? You are sleeping, he snapped. This is weakness. This is weakness you are showing. Weakness? She laughed bitterly, sitting down. Do you even see me anymore? Or am I just the woman who bears your children while you chase the world? Benson stepped closer, his jaws tight. I'm building this for you, for them, but you are sabotaging everything. Do you think I don't notice the whispers that my wife spends more time at parties than at home? Helen's face crumbled. Maybe at those parties, at least someone listens to me. At least someone looks at me like I exist. The words hit harder than she expected. Benson froze. His eyes narrowed. Is there someone else? Her silence was answer enough, or maybe it was an inability to answer. From that moment, suspicion took root in Benson's heart. He no longer saw a woman in pain. He saw betrayal. And Helen, crushed under the weight of betrayal, loneliness and constant judgment, began to spiral deeper into the comfort of bottle, with the smell of alcohol sharp in air most nights. The night Helen disappeared was one Benson never spoke of in detail. To his children, the version they heard was simple, clean and final. Michael was only 6. Sophia was barely 4 when Benson gathered them into the living room. His face was pale, his eyes red as if from lack of sleep, but his voice was steady. "Your mother is gone," he said. His tone clicked, almost rehearsed. Sophia's small hands clutched her stuffed bear. "Gone? Where?" Benson swallowed hard, forcing himself to hold her eyes. She left us. She made her choice." Michael's brows furrowed, confusion clear on his young face. "But why? Did we do something wrong?" "No," Benson said, quickly kneeling before them. His voice was soft just enough to disguise the stale bitterness. "This has nothing to do with you. She didn't want this life anymore. She abandoned us." Sophia's lips trembled. But she's mommy. Mommies don't just go." Benson drew her into her arms, stroking her hair. "Sometimes people change. Sometimes love isn't enough." His words came out sharper than intended, bitterness leaking though. That night, he tucked them into bed, promising he will always be there. "I'll never leave you." And to a pair of children seeking stability, his promise became law. But what Benson didn't tell them was the storm that had led to that night. He didn't mention the argument that shook the walls, Helen's suitcase by the door, or the way her hands trembled as she whispered, "You will never let me be more than your shadow." He didn't mention her tears or how he stood silent as she walked away. To Michael and Sophia, the story was sealed. Their mother had chosen herself over them. And so, as the years passed, Helen became a ghost in their memories, a figure their father painted as selfish, weak and unworthy of love. The truth of her disappearance, whether she had fled, been driven out, or falling too deep in despair, remained buried. Benson became both father and mother overnight. At least, that's how he wanted Michael and Sophia to see him, with Benson skimming the business pages while the children packed a civil. But every now and then, he would look up and say, "You have me, I'll never let go of you." Those words became his refrain, an anchor for their young hearts. He wove his story carefully. Helen was gone because she was weak, unable to handle responsibility. He was the strong one, the steady one, the protector. I had to pick up the pieces, he would say when questions arose. I had to rebuild. For us, Michael absorbed most of it. By 12, he wore his father's sense of duty like armor. "We don't need her," he told Sophia once when she cried over a forgotten birthday. "Dad is the one who stayed. That's what matters." Sophia, softer in spirit, didn't always believe it. At night, when Benson taught them asleep, she whispered to the moon outside her window, "If you're out there, mommy, do you miss me too?" But in the daylight, she followed her father's rules, learning to smile at the image he wanted them to uphold. Benson did not merely raise children, he groomed heirs. Michael was ushered into boardrooms before he could drive, sitting quietly in corners, listening to men speak of mergers and markets. Sophia was enrolled in the best school, her every step of reflection of the family name. And when doubts arose, when whispers of their mother reached their ears from neighbors or distant relatives, Benson quelled them with his iron certainty. "I protected you from her chaos. I gave you stability. Never forget that." The children grew, shaped less by who their mother had been and more by who their father had told them she was. The city didn't feel the same after that day. Michael and Sophia couldn't shake the image of their mother in rags, hands stretched, eyes filled with shame and longing. At dinner, Chief Benson spoke of stock markets and expansion plans. His voice measured, but the children barely tasted their food. Their glances kept walking across the table, unspoken, heavy. Later that night, in Sophia's room, she whispered what they were both thinking. "Michael, we can't just leave it like that. That was Mom." Michael hesitated. "Or the woman Dad wants us to think is our mom. What if that's not what she looks like? But the doubt in his own voice betrayed him. He wanted certainty, the kind his father always projected, and yet, seeing their mother on the corner had cracked something open. 3 nights later, under the guise of meeting friends, they slipped away in Michael's car. The street corner wasn't hard to find. She was there, just as before. Though fewer coins clinked in her cup at late hour, Sophia stepped forward first, heart hammering. Mom? Her voice trembled. Helen froze. The cup slipped from her hands, coins scattering across the pavement. Tears poured instantly as though she had been holding them back for years. My babies, her voice cracked. You came. Michael's jaw tightened. Why are you here? Why are you like this? Dad said you abandoned you. Helen finished softly. That I was selfish, weak. She looked up, meeting their gaze. I never left you. I was taken away, pushed out. Sophia stepped closer. Tell us, please, we need to know. Helen drew a shuddering breath. Your father, he built an empire, yes. But before that, he built walls against me, against my pain. And when I broke under the weight of it, he called it weakness. Michael swallowed hard. So, he lied. Not everything. But not everything he told you was truth either. They sat on a cold stone bench under the flickering street lamp. The world around them reduced to shadows. I wasn't always like this, she began. I was once your father's pride. His love, his equal. She paused. But love can turn into chains if it isn't free. Chains? Michael frowned. Dad said you couldn't handle things. That's why you walked away. Helen's laugh was bitter. Walked away? No, Michael. I was pushed out. Your father wanted control of everything. His business, his image, even my soul. I couldn't breathe in that house. Sophia's eyes were filled with tears. But you were once happy, weren't you? Yes, I was once happy. We danced in our tiny apartment, eating noodles when we had nothing. We dreamed together. He promised me the world and I believed him. But as the empire grew, so did his hunger. He wanted perfection, flawless children, a flawless wife. I wasn't flawless. I had cracks. I fell into sadness, depression, and instead of helping me, he called me weak. Instead of holding me, he pushed me aside. Michael's fist clenched. So what happened? Why didn't you fight for us? Helen's eyes brimmed with shame. I tried, but he made sure you'd never see me as anything but a failure. He told everyone I was unstable. He locked me out of my own life. By the time I realized, you both were looking at me with his words in your eyes, and I broke off, sobbing into her hands. Sophia wrapped her arms around her, whispering, Mom, we see you now. We are listening. Michael's chest rose and fell. If what you're saying is true, then that isn't the man we thought he knew. Helen raised her tear-stained face. Children, the truth is really simple. He gave you the world, but he took mine away. And now you must decide which story you believe. The drive back was silent. Sophia sat pressed against the car window. At least, Sophia knew the silence. Michael gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white, jaw set green. She didn't lie. Michael, I can feel it. That wasn't just shame, that was truth. Michael shook his head, eyes fixed on the road. You want to believe her? But Dad, he raised us. He never left us. Everything we are is because of him. Why would he lie to us? Because control is what he does. Sophia shot back. Didn't you hear her? He pushed her out. He wanted us to hate her before we even knew her. Michael exhaled. Or maybe she's just rewriting history. People in her position, they cling to excuses. She was begging on a street corner sofa. Dad runs an empire. Which side makes more sense? Sophia turned to him. Since when did wealth decide who is telling the truth? She looked at us like mother. She remembered us. Can you fake that? Michael didn't answer. He pulled the car into a driveway. Inside, Chief Benson was waiting, seated on his armchair. Late nights? He asked smoothly. Out with friends? Michael forced a nod. Yeah. His voice was steady. For the first time in his life, he felt as though his father could see through him. Sophia, meanwhile, kept her gaze lowered. In their rooms, Michael whispered, "We can't let him know we saw her." Sophia hugged her knees. "But we did see her, and now we can't unsee it." The confrontation was inevitable. Michael and Sophia had been sleeping away too often. Their excuses pepper thin. Chief Benson, a man who built an empire on suspicion and calculation, noticed. And one evening, instead of questioning them directly, he followed. He parked a sleek black car across the street and watched his children approach the same corner again. And there she was, Helen, in her ragged clothes, reaching for their heads with trembling joy. Chief Benson stepped out of the shadows. "Helen!" Helen froze, color drained from her face. Michael and Sophia gasped, caught in the collision. "So," Chief Benson stepped, "you finally decided to poison them with your version of the past." Helen's lips trembled. "Poisoned? No, Benson. I gave them what you stole, the truth." Michael stepped forward, palms raised. "Dad, wait." Chief Benson's eyes flickered. "You went behind my back after everything I've built for you." Sophia's voice cracked. "Because you lied to us." Chief Benson's face hardened. "Everything I've done was protect you, to keep you from her chaos." Helen laughed bitterly. "Chaos? You mean my depression, my pain? You turned my illness into a weapon. You raised me, Benson." She took a shaky breath. "I wasn't perfect. I made mistakes, but I never abandoned you. I was abandoned." Michael's chest heaved. Sophia's tears streamed freely. Chief Benson's jaws clinked. "You think they will choose you now? After everything, look at you." Helen smiled. "I don't need them to choose me over you. I just need them to know the truth. Then they can decide for themselves." The confrontation had shaken the children, but Helen wasn't finished. Days later, in the dim corner of a basement where she sometimes found shelter, she told them the truth, this time without interruption, without fear. "Your father didn't just push me out, he destroyed me." "Destroyed you? How?" Helen looked at her son. "When the company first began to grow, I saw things, deals made in the dark, partners who suddenly disappeared, money that flowed in from questionable sources. I begged him to slow down, to do things the right way, but Benson, he only saw obstacles, and I became one of them." Sophia chuckled. Sophia clutched her mother's hand. "So he got rid of you?" "Yes, he called doctors, told them I was unstable. He forged reports, paid people off. Soon I was no longer Helen. I was no longer wife and mother. I was a liability, a diagnosis. He sent me away, locked me out of my home, and made sure society believed I was broken." Michael's face tightened. And we believed him." Tears streamed down Helen's cheeks. "It wasn't your fault. He's powerful. He controls the story. And the story he told, that I was weak. That's why I ended up here, stripped of dignity, forced to beg just to survive." Sophia cried. "All this time, that empire was built on lies." Helen leaned closer. "Children, I don't want you to turn your backs against him, but you must know this. The empire you are about to inherit, it isn't clean, and one day, his past will come for you too." The siblings sat frozen. For the first time, Chief Benson's polished marks cracked in their minds. The mansion felt different now. Where once its marble floors gleamed with pride, they now echoed like prison walls. When the chandelier dazzled with elegance, they now blinded with excesses. Michael and Sophia walked in halls, seeing not luxury but evidence. Evidence of what or who had been lost to build. At breakfast, Chief Benson sat at the head of the table, flipping through the morning papers. He looked every inch the king in his castle. Tailored suits, gold wristwatch, calm authority. But to the children, the image was no longer perfect. Sophia pushed her food around the plate, finally whispering, "Dad." Chief Benson looked up. "Yes, princess. Do you ever regret how you turned things out with Mom?" The air thickened. Chief Benson set down his paper. "We don't dwell on past in this family. Regret is for weakness. I gave you both strength, stability. That's what matters." Michael leaned forward. "But at what cost?" Chief Benson's eyes widened. "What have you two been up to?" The children exchanged glances. Later, in Sophia's room, the siblings spoke in hushed voices. I can't unsee it. Every corner of this house, every luxury is built on her suffering. Michael paced. He made us believe what he wanted us to see, but he's not the hero. He's the executioner. Sophia looked at her brother. So, what do we do? Do we expose him, confront him, or keep pretending? Michael stopped pacing. I don't know, but one thing is certain. Our father isn't the man we thought he is. The tension had been simmering for days, and finally it erupted one late evening in the library. The siblings locked the door. The crackling fireplace only witnessed to it, whispering arguments. Sophia clutched her mother's rosary, one of the few belongings to Helen, still hard. Her voice trembled and with conviction. Michael, we can't ignore this. Mom was discarded like trash. If we stay silent, we are complicit. Michael stood near the window, staring at the city skyline. His jaw tight. Sophia, you're letting emotions cloud you. Dad built this empire. He gave us everything. He really thinks the world will believe a broken beggar over him. Sophia, shut up. It's not about belief, it's about truth. Don't you see it? You're living in a palace built on lies, on her suffering. Michael spun around. And what do you want us to do, huh? Tear it down? Throw away everything we worked for because Mom couldn't handle life at his side? Sophia flinched. Don't you dare say that. Don't repeat his words. She wasn't weak. Michael, she was silenced. The silence stretched. Michael's face clenched. His face caught between anger and pain. I can't betray him. He raised us. He made me who I am. Without him, we are nothing. Sophia's eyes filled with tears, and without her, we are incomplete. The rift was drawn. Michael, chained by loyalty and duty to his father, clung to the empire. Sophia's tender-hearted yet fierce carried the fire of her mother's truth. Neither of them spoke as they left the library, their footsteps echoing in opposite direction. For the first time in their lives, the siblings were walking side by side. And Benson, listening from the shadows just beyond the door, allowed himself to feel small, a small, cold smile. It began as whispers. A blurry photo snapped on the passerby's phone. Benson, the Empire Titan, standing face to face with a ragged woman on the street. The caption read, "Who is she?" Within hours, the photo circulated across social media. By the next morning, newspapers had splashed across the front page. Mughul's mystery woman, disgraced wife, billionaire's forgotten family secrets. At breakfast, Chief Benson's hand trembled slightly as he sat the paper down. Michael scanned the headlines, his stomach twisting, while Sophia stared at the photo of her mother exposed to the world. Damage control, Chief Benson muttered, almost to himself. This will be buried. Michael cleared the truth. Dad, what if people start digging? What if they find out the truth? There is no truth about except the one I gave you. Do you understand? Sophia's spoon clattered. You can't control everything anymore, Dad. The world is watching. And Mom deserves to be heard. Enough, Sophia. You will not speak of that woman's name in this house again, Chief Benson scolded. But outside the walls, reporters camped near the mansion gates. Former business associates hinted at personal scandals. At a charity gala, Chief Benson had been scheduled to attend quietly, rescinded his invitation, reciting reputational concerns. Investors began to waver. In her shelter, Helen saw her own face on the news for the first time in years. Shame burned her cheeks, but there was also a strange relief. She whispered to herself, "At last, they see me." Meanwhile, Michael paced the office at the company headquarters, fielding calls from panicked executives. "We need clarity, Michael," one of them urged. "The board won't tolerate uncertainty." Sophia, however, saw the headlines as an opening. "This is Mom's chance," she told her brother. "If we let her speak, everything changes." Helen had spent years hiding her face, shrinking from the world, ashamed of what she had become. But when her image hit the newsstands, she could no longer remain invisible. People whispered her name again, not as a ghost of forgotten scandal, but as a woman wrong. It began with a journalist who sought after her shelter. Clara approached gently, not with the hunger of gossip, but compassion. "Mrs. Benson, you don't have to tell me anything you don't want people to know. But if you are ready, people need to hear your story, not just this." Helen trembled. She glanced at Sophia, who had slipped into the meeting unnoticed, and she spoke. She told Clara about the early years of love, about the crack. Chief Benson branded her as unstable to protect him. She admitted her depression, her shame, her failures. When the article went live, the response was overwhelming. The silenced wife, Helen Benson, breaks her silence. The public didn't see a beggar anymore. They saw a survival. Women groups reached out. Shelters invited her to speak. And slowly, the world that once turned his back began to embrace her. Michael sat in his office, scrolling through the article. His mother's words struck him. He whispered almost in disbelief, "She's strong." Sophia wept openly as she read. And Chief Benson, he slammed the paper down, full recursing over him. For the first time, he realized his greatest weapon, control of the narrative, was slipping away. Chief Frederick sat alone in his study, the curtains drawn. The empire had been built brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. His phone buzzed endlessly with messages, advisors, board members, investors, but he couldn't bring himself to answer. The newspaper on his desk mocked him with its bold headline, "Chief Benson's legacy questioned. Wife speaks out." For the first time in decades, Chief Benson felt small. He poured himself a drink, but the amber liquid did nothing to steady his shaking hands. Helen's voice accusing him of control as night sleep betrayed him. He dreamt of her standing in the shadows. Was it worth it, Benson? Every dollar, every lie. His executive whispered of image damage. A long trusted partner leaned across the table. "Chief Benson, people don't trust you anymore. The empire is bleeding." Chief Benson lashed out. "I am this empire. Without me, it collapses." His words met with uneasy silence. For the first time, his power seemed less. At home, Michael noticed the shift. His father, once immovable, looked older, smaller. He found him one evening staring at the family portrait on the wall. "Father," Michael said quietly, "you are losing yourself." Chief Benson toned. "They don't understand, Michael. None of you do. Everything I did, everything was for this family." But Michael didn't answer. That night was heavy. There was heavy silence as Michael and Sophia sat across the table. Sophia was the first to break the silence. "We can't keep living in shadow. Father's lies, mother's suffering is tearing us apart." Michael rubbed his temples. "Do you think I don't know that? But if we condemn him, Sophia, we condemn ourselves too. Everything we've built, everything we've inherited." Sophia's eyes glistened. "If we forgive him without accountability, what does that make us? Silent accomplices?" Michael leaned back. He thought of the board meetings. "Maybe," Michael whispered, "maybe forgiveness isn't the answer. Maybe truth is. Truth and unity. No more choosing sides. We decide together." Sophia said. Michael looked at her. Sophia reached out for his hand. "We stand together with each other. We carve a new path, not his." Tears welled in Michael's eyes for the first time. He felt the chains of his father's empire losing. Then it's decided, he said softly. "Together." That night it was cold. Chief Benson walked alone. The world still knew him as a tycoon whose empire stretched across his business. He stopped at the street corner. The same place. He remembered the exact sound of Sophia's voice trembling. "Dad, is that Mom?" He closed his eyes, replaying it over and over again. Across the street, he thought he saw her again, not begging this time but standing tall. A car passed, breaking the illusion. Benson sighed, taking in a breath, and then he heard it, not in his memory, his children's voice. "We will move forward together, always." Benson turned away from the corner and walked slowly. The story no longer belonged to him, it belonged to them, through the children's eyes. Lessons from the story. Truth can never be buried forever. Chief Benson spent years building his empire on half-truths and lies, but in the end, Truth surface through the eyes of his children. No matter how carefully hidden, secrets have a way of finding light. Wealth cannot heal a broken family. Chimpanzee believed money, status, and influence could make up for the absence of love and compassion. Yet, despite his empire, his home crumbled. Family bonds are strengthened by honesty, not wealth. Silence can be its own betrayal. Forgiveness and accountability must work together. Empires built on sacrifice must acknowledge the costs of others. Children see more than we think. At the beginning, the children were innocent. By the end, their eyes became the mirror of reality. Shame can be transformed into strength. Division weakens, unity strengthens. Legacy is defined by character, not by wealth. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so by now. Like, share, and comment. Till I bring you another interesting African story, God bless you.